was really more about like how I showed up, the behavior that I modeled, the culture that I created just by the behaviors that I brought to work. And so
Right.
some of these things like that seem so simple, they're easy to dismiss. Things like kindness and generosity and a willingness to like really listen and be quiet and a sense of humility, a sense of being like truly collaborative. There's a handful of these like very personal behaviors and they're not the only ones. The ones that I've identified as being the most impactful in my life and in the lives of all the leaders that I've worked with in the last 15 or 20 years. I've identified a list of maybe 10 or 12 behaviors that I think are really important, but that's not the end of them. Like everybody's got their own like personal behaviors, right? That they want to show up with to be kind of that best version of themselves that allows their teams to be the best version of themselves.
Welcome back to the Leadership That Shines podcast. I am your host, Natalie Davis, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you. And I am a little hesitant to go any further because technology is not playing in my favor today. I am a big fan of the Riverside platform until I'm not. And Riverside, don't take it out on me. I don't know what is going on today, but I've been getting kicked out, and maybe I just had too much energy coming into the episode because I'm excited about our guest today, and maybe that knocks me offline. Who knows? But we'll see. I am happy to be here, and joining us today is Parker Gates. Parker, I am so excited to have you on the show. I think I shared on our last episode that there are just individuals that you meet or that I have the opportunity to meet as a result of this podcast. And I'm immediately connected to these individuals and I say, we're friends now. So we're just going to continue on this fabulous journey that we call life as friends. But Parker, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think that the biggest thing for me that stands out when we're talking about leadership and the attributes and skills and qualities that we're aspiring to have as leaders, there's just this school of thought around leadership being more of the introspective personal development piece. And when I learned that you had the same school of thought, I was like, yep, this is exactly in alignment with where we are on this show and what we're wanting to deliver to our listeners. But Parker, you have what I think is such a rich background. That's what I'll call it, a rich background in terms of your leadership journey. Yeah. You've gone from corporate America, you were in the kitchen space, you went to entrepreneurship because why not? Right. So seeing over 2 decades of your leadership journey and how it has varied in each of these spaces, I'd love to just start out by having you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your leadership journey over the last couple of decades. And let's dive into some of the lessons that you've learned and some of the things that we want to share with our listeners in terms of what they're looking for their growth.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'll be honest with you. I never started out wanting to be a leader. It never occurred to me as a teenager. I never thought, oh gosh, I'm dying to lead people, or I want to run a team. That never even occurred to me. My first foray into leadership was completely accidental. I worked at a kitchen at a deli in Colorado Springs, Colorado when I was 19 years old. And before long, I was running the kitchen and had a, small team of people working under me, short order cooks and, dishwashers and things like that. So that was the entrance into leadership. And of course, I was 19. I knew nothing about leadership. And I had no idea how to inspire people or motivate people or do anything like that. So I would have to ask the team that I worked with, all those years ago, but my hunch is that I probably wasn't very good at it. if I had to guess, I would probably say I was probably not rad at that. So,
right. Yes.
But yeah, then over the years, I kind of ended up in corporate America space. I was in IT for a very long time. And so I ended up kind of moving up the ranks quickly into a leadership role, not because I was really great at technology more so because I was able to communicate complicated ideas in a simple way. And so people on the leadership team wanted somebody that could talk about servers and routers and switches and all these kind of nerdy things that I understood in a way that they could understand and make decisions with. And so I think that's how I started to move into leadership roles. Again, the teams that I had, I'm not sure that I was great with those folks. I was very focused on technology, not so much on leading a team. I kind of operated from this very naive understanding of like, well, you get paid to be here. You're just going to do your job well. And that was all that, was required. Not so much. Yeah, exactly.
No, exactly.
I didn't operate that way.
That's
I don't
great
know why.
In theory. Yeah,
in theory,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's the Mad Men theory, right? That's what the money's for.
Yes.
But I didn't operate that way. So why I expected them to operate that way was beyond me. But that was when I started to learn a little bit about like, oh, okay, this is something I want to be better at. I want to better understand them. And be able to help them and support them in ways so that they can do their jobs and also, have a good lived experience of work.
Yes.
I think, Natalie, early on, I remember seeing this statistic years and years ago. I was probably in like my early 30s, and I saw the statistics that said that on average, most Americans work about 33% of their lives.
Mm-hmm. That's
I was like, oh my God, a third of our lives. Another third has gone to sleep. And so really we just have like 1/3 that's like dedicated to, quote unquote living. And when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I think it's really important that we enjoy our jobs, that we enjoy our work. That time should be well spent. And I think that that's what interested me in both finding work that I loved, but also in helping people, do their jobs well and in a way that felt really good to them, that their lived experience was good. Yeah.
I love that. So that was the spark for you, was understanding that you had a role, a part to play in the lives of the people that you were leading. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I still don't know that I was a great leader, but I started to understand the importance of it.
Exactly.
There
was some intention there. You were focused on it. Yes.
Yeah. Well put.
Yes.
Well put. I was starting to think about it for the first time, and I had some intention. Maybe I couldn't execute it on the way that I wanted to, but it's also around this same time, your 30s, mid 30s, maybe, where you start to notice your leadership in a real way, and you kind of move to a place where you're like, man, I'm in a fairly sophisticated organization. I don't understand why my leader is not as rad as they probably could be or should be. And so everybody's had a bad boss, right? And I think that that's where a lot of people, probably like you and I, get to the roles that we're in these days, which is like, oh man, bad bosses are gnarly, right? Like they're tough.
Yes.
And they affect so much downstream. That's not a big, hard thing to improve. How do we do this better? Right.
Yeah.
And
they tend to leave the longest lasting impression on individuals, right? It's the bad bosses where you're like scarred forever. Yeah. It's forever ingrained in that. And I think that the exceptional leaders as well will leave a lasting impression.
Yes.
It's those that are average or mediocre in the middle that oftentimes find themselves like, I don't know how I got here. I'm not sure how I was put in this role, but you're paid to be here. Just do your job and we'll get through this, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yes. That's exactly right. That's so true. Over the years, as I moved into like entrepreneurship and my own companies and had my own teams, I was more clear about my lack as a leader than I had ever been before. Especially when I was the founder or co-founder and they were my team. I had hired them. I brought them in. I did everything. And man, I could see so clearly where I was falling short and, where I wanted to be better. And it was just really, really hard. And that was where I think I really started to understand leadership in a very real way. And I could see that past leaders that were not good, they probably knew they weren't good and just were like, well, I'm good enough.
Right.
I started to see where I was like, I didn't feel like I was great at it, and I really wanted to be a lot better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
That was the big turning point for me.
I love that. I love that. And Parker, I think, when we talk about just the transition that you had from this corporate space and leadership in that role to leadership as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of similarities, but the undertone is a little bit different. And so talk to us a little bit about that transition, first from going from the comfort and security of the corporate space to this wonderful world of entrepreneurship that many of us are thriving in. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, sure. I had this really amazing opportunity when I was still in the corporate space. I was in the healthcare world, and I was at director level for the IT organization for a healthcare company. And I had this really amazing opportunity to attend this executive education kind of week-long thing at a place called the D School at Stanford University. And I went and I learned this methodology for innovation called design thinking. And this was in, 2010, November of 2010. And I went and I fell head over heels in love with design thinking as a methodology, as a means for achieving innovation and doing creative work. And my boss, my CEO at the time, who went with me, he took me, and it was funny. He said so. He used to always say, he's like, I don't think you're an IT guy. He's like, I don't know what you are yet, but I don't think you're an IT guy, which honestly, Natalie, was like terrifying to me, because I was like, man, if I'm not an IT guy, what am I? Like, I don't.
What am I doing? This is my whole world right now.
Yeah, I thought that this was my career, so I'm kind of spooked right now. And so I went to Stanford and I did this week-long thing and really just fell in love, not with this methodology that I was being taught, this framework, but also with the way that we interacted and the way that we treated each other, the way that the teaching team treated us as kind of students, as, executive students or professional students. And then also with the way that we interacted as teams together. So I was just with a bunch of other, other execs, and we were slammed on a team, and we went through a real live project. And I was just like blown away. I came home, I quit my job as the IT director, and then immediately started running innovation projects within that same healthcare company. So I had the blessing of our CEO at that time, a guy named Tim, and he's, again, he'd gone with me. So he knew the value of design thinking, and he also wanted us to do good innovation work, to be more user-centered in the work that we were doing in healthcare. And so that's where I started cutting my teeth in the world of design thinking. And the world of design thinking comes with like a set of behaviors that allow people to be really creative. And so they also inherently create a sense of psychological safety. And which is right. Okay. So radically important. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Google ran a project called Project Aristotle. And this was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, if I had to guess. And they were looking at the elements of the most highly functioning teams at Google. And it was a year or so, maybe 3-year research project. And anyway, one of the things that they came up with, there were 5 elements that created these, highly effective teams. And the number one most important one was psychological safety. And so, so this ability to come up with ideas and solutions without fear of being embarrassed or ridiculed or shut down by somebody else in your team. So that was the beginning of like, oh, this is how I want to create a very psychologically safe space. I did not come from one. The corporate environment I was in was anything but safe. And And we were always kind of like...
the irony in that, because it was in healthcare. So that's also interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And I live in Nashville, Tennessee, which is like healthcare USA. And so we see a lot of it. I know a lot of people that are in healthcare, and most of them will tell you that it's not, there's a lot of these teams that are not super safe to be on, that it's a little more cutthroat than you would think it would be in the corporate space. Once you get into where we actually treat patients, it changes.
Exactly.
But in the corporate space, it's a little bit different. So anyway, going to the D School, that was the beginning of it. And then by another stroke of luck, I was invited to teach there. So I was calling the guys that ran the executive education portion of the D school at Stanford, and I was saying like, "Hey, how do I do this and how do I do that?" And I was trying to put together projects and teams, and eventually they were like, "Hey, stop calling us. Why don't you just come back up here and we'll show you how we teach a team?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great." So
Perfect.
I went back up and I learned how to lead a team at that point. So the first way through, I learned how to do it as an individual. The second time I went through and I learned how to lead a team using these principles. And then as it turned out, they said, "Hey, you're actually pretty good at teaching. Do you want to teach here? Do you want to teach this course with us?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I do." And so I've been doing that for the last like 15 years. And but the thing that's really magic is the way that these teams work together. And so, they come together for, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year for about a week at a time to lead these professional development programs. And the way that we like learned how to treat each other with kindness and generosity and respect and humility. And I mean, it was completely different than anything I'd ever experienced at any other job I'd ever had. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is like, I want to build a team like this. I want to do everything in my power to like create like the kind of team like this that operates in this way and that can come up with these kinds of ideas. And so that's how I got here.
I love it. Parker, I want to go into the details, so I'm going to take us down this quick little rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because going to this training and coming back and saying, you know what, I'm turning in my notice and I'm going to build my own team that is more as a consultant to all of these companies that I wish to work with. Was there a moment that you were attending the training that shift happened and you realized the work that I have to do is much greater than the position that I'm in right now?
That's a great question. I don't remember like a specific moment, but I remember over the course of the week, like the teachers, the other coaches that would lead us through that project work were so cool to be around. And they were like, were so encouraging and supportive. And again, I just never felt like that before. And I was like, oh man. And so I think it was over the period of a few days where I went from like being fairly like nervous and anxious. I had never gone to college. And so here I am at Stanford University, and hanging around all these kids that like went to Stanford and had like advanced degrees and had cool jobs at like IDEO and Google and Apple and all these like amazing places. And I was like, oh man, I'm feeling a little less than right now. And they welcomed me in with open arms, not only as a student of the program, but when I came to work there, the same thing, right? Like, they were just thrilled to have me. And I don't know what I'd ever experienced that sense of belonging in a way, and which was incredibly powerful. So, ironically, one of the coaches on that team is a woman named Susie Wise, who wrote a book about the design for belonging, and it's on the D School Press. But anyway, so they're very intentional. It wasn't an accident, right? I mean, she did that very much. They did that very much on purpose. So
absolutely. I've never heard of the offering or the program itself. And so to think that they're able to create such an impactful culture in a 1-week time frame. That just blows me away. And just being in that space and having that sense of community are probably the things that started to lead to you, like getting to this point of understanding there's something greater. I'm going to take this leap to do something, to do more, to have a greater impact. Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
I love that. I love it. Okay.
It's really powerful.
Yes, absolutely. So when you talk about the sense of belonging, that's a big piece. When we talk about some of the interpersonal training that's really important for leaders, that creates this culture, that creates high effective and high performance teams, and it's not always numbers and tracking data, that is important, I understand.
Yes.
We're not putting that to the side.
That's right.
Talk to us a little bit about the steps that you take your teams through now to bring out the best versions of themselves, to really be effective and efficient.
Yeah. It's a great question. I am, So I am in the midst of writing a book, and the premise, not the title, but the premise is all about, I think something that you will love, which this is idea of like that personal development is professional development.
Yes.
It's the same thing, and most people don't realize it. And so I spent a lot of time thinking that I needed to learn about like servers and routers and switches and, like all these like technical things. And then I picked up a couple of books on like leadership and they were also very tactical and they didn't speak to me. And to be honest with you, I couldn't finish them. Like I would pick them up and I'd get like 12 pages in and I was like so bored, that I just couldn't do it. And so yeah, that's when I started to realize that it was really more about like how I showed up, the behavior that I modeled, the culture that I created just by the behaviors that I brought to work. And so
Right.
some of these things like that seem so simple, they're easy to dismiss. Things like kindness and generosity and a willingness to like really listen and be quiet and a sense of humility, a sense of being like truly collaborative. There's a handful of these like very personal behaviors they're not the only ones. The ones that I've identified as being the most impactful in my life and in the lives of all the leaders that I've worked with in the last 15 or 20 years. I've identified a list of maybe 10 or 12 behaviors that I think are really important, but that's not the end of them. Like everybody's got their own like personal behaviors, right? That they want to show up with to be kind of that best version of themselves that allows their teams to be the best version of themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and Parker, it truly is a heavy lift when you think about it, right? Because you are, as a leader, being intentional about setting aside or carving out time to do the introspective work. How am I showing up? How am I creating space? What is the culture that I'm creating? All the while being there for the people that you're leading as well.
Right.
And so it's kind of twofold where it's leading self. And I talk a lot about leading self first on this show. And so leading yourself first before going out and being a leader, quote unquote, leader for the people that are on your team or working alongside you. How are you able to help individuals really create the bridge that connects the two? Because they're both vitally important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's funny. I just gave a talk on this. There was a group of leaders here in town from Knoxville, a group of about 50 people, and I just gave this talk. And it's not a super unique talk, but it's this idea of you have to place the oxygen mask on yourself first, right? And so I think we've all seen that meme a couple of times, and it's so true that like if we don't take wonderful care of ourselves, there's not a chance that we're going to be our best for our clients, our team members, our employees, our customers, everybody, or our bosses. And so, and it's really counterintuitive, I think, for a lot of us, who think like, oh, customers first, and I got to provide, and I got to get to everybody first. And it's just not true. I think we've seen more of that since COVID, right? Like more cases of like legit diagnosed burnout have happened. And so we've seen what happens when we don't take great care of ourselves. And I mean that emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually, however you want to look at it. I think that when we start to deprioritize ourselves, our well-being, our okayness, man, we're just not as good for the people around us. And that also clearly extends to, significant others and kids and parents and siblings, right? I mean, it's to everybody in our lives. It's like,
exactly.
So, yeah. So that's the thing that I think is like really important, is making sure that we're treating ourselves really, really, really well. And so the things that I work in my role now as a coach. I work as a coach to C-suite folks these days. And in that role, the three things that seem to have the highest impact are journaling practices, so writing practices, meditation, and movement, fitness of whatever kind you're interested in, whether that's walking or yoga or swimming or whatever your thing is. But yeah, moving this vehicle so that we can process all of the things that we're working on throughout the day.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I would love to dive into each of these
Mm,
three. These
yeah,
are three practices that I have incorporated in my life pretty much daily,
yeah.
regardless of where I am, if I'm traveling and on the road or if I'm at home. Talk to us a little bit about journaling because a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and we
Yeah,
like to get caught up in the details.
totally.
So let's give it to them.
Totally, you got it. I'll talk about this, and then I'll say that I've got a thing that I'll give away to all your listeners. We'll talk about it at the end, but I've got a link
Perfect.
where I have a video where I do a deep dive on on these three practices, and
Perfect.
so
Perfect.
we'll share that later. But starting with journaling, so I came about journaling. Uh, I am in recovery. I've been in recovery long term, 24 years sober. And that was where I got introduced to this idea of taking an inventory. And so stick with me here. This is actually kind of fascinating. So in the recovery world, they introduced this idea of taking inventory to take a really good look at your behaviors. How have you shown up? Where maybe have you done damage? Where do you owe an amends? Or where do you need to do the repair work? All of these things have direct application to, what I do in the working world, in the professional world. So that was where I was introduced to this idea of like sitting down and on a regular basis taking inventory. Um, and the metaphor or the analogy that they draw out in the recovery literature is that a business that does not take inventory is working with, unsellable goods essentially. And so if I go back to my days in the kitchen, this is hysterical. I used to take inventory, right? I would walk into the walk-in cooler and I'd be like, all right, we got ham and turkey and lettuce and, all that
Yeah.
stuff. And if I hadn't done that, that business would have gone out of business, right? Like
Correct.
everything would have been rotten. I'm not ordering fresh goods. So I'm not keeping up with, the stock on hand. So that's where this idea of journaling started for me was how can I stop and take a look at how I showed up in the previous 24 hours? Some people do this practice at night as they're going to bed. They sit down and they just reflect on their day. This is very much a Benjamin Franklin thing. This is very much a Seneca thing, a Marcus Aurelius thing. All the kind of, wonderful thinkers for the past 3,000 years have had this practice. But you can do it at night where you sit down and just reflect on the day. Like you think about maybe some tough conversations you had to have, or maybe you had to make a sales call and you were really nervous and you felt awkward and you felt less than. So just processing that stuff, especially doing it with pen and paper. I venture to say that that's actually really important. There's a professor, I think he's professor emeritus now, out of UT Austin, Dr. James Pennebaker, if I'm getting his name right, who did a bunch of research on the benefits of actually using pen and paper when journaling and how that does something different for us than just, typing it out on our phone or even using a laptop. So there are some true benefits. It allows us to think. It slows our minds down so we're not like going so quickly. And so, yeah, I'm a big advocate using pen and paper, reflect on the previous 24 hours, think about the places where maybe you didn't show up in the way that you wanted to. And then I'm a giant fan of repair work of, if we were wrong, if we said something the way that we shouldn't have, to go back the next day, especially if it's to an employee, go back and you say, man, I did not show up in the way that I wanted to. That is my bad. I'm going to do my best not to do that again moving forward. I don't necessarily have to ask for forgiveness because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I think it's really important to own when I've been wrong, when I missed the mark. And so, yeah, that's my stuff, with journaling. But I'm super curious, like in your practice, like, would you add anything to that?
No, well, it's actually spot on. It's exactly what I do. I don't do the inventory, but I love that you referenced Benjamin Franklin because I referenced Benjamin Franklin, and there's kind of a screenshot of what his calendar would look like on a daily basis. And for those that have heard me say this before, he started the day and ended the day with the same question, right? Like the start of the day was, what good shall I do today? And at the end of the day, he wrapped up with, what good have I done today, to kind of go into that reflective piece. So wholeheartedly, absolutely embrace that. And I am also a big believer in pen and paper. This journal behind me here is a result of a journal that I created because I wanted and needed a space to reflect on 3 things each morning. I write one affirmation 25 times every day. And so there are 25 lines on the right side of the journal. I also find 3 things that I'm grateful for each day. And so that's on the left side at the very top. I start each day by finding 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then there's a spot for that journaling, that reflection. Sometimes it's my to-do list, right? It's like all of the things that are taking up space, or it's the noise that's in my mind. I just dump it there so that I can then go over to the right side of the page and start to write the things that I'm grateful for. And this book has been out, this journal. It's a gratitude journal. It's available on Amazon if you want to order it. I'll make sure that I drop it in the show notes. But for about 7 years now, and it's because it didn't exist, right? It didn't exist in the layout that I needed. And as a result, I created it for myself and then I shared it with the world. And so
amazing.
Yes, and yes to all of that. I think I'm going to take the inventory piece and add that in because I've got the space for it now. But I think even the powerful piece that you mentioned outside of the journaling is, as a leader, when you're doing that inventory and you realize I didn't show up as the best version of myself in this conversation with someone. I love what you said in terms of just letting them know, like, I'm sorry, I take ownership for that, and not looking for forgiveness, but taking ownership for it. Like, my bad. I am going to recognize and understand that this was not the best way for me to handle this, say this, show up for you. I want to make sure that you know that I am aware of this, and moving forward, this is what you can expect from me. Whatever the receiver decides to do with that is up to them. We have no control over that. That's a key piece. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I love that.
There's, and I got this notion, the repair work notion from, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget her name. Dr. Becky something. She wrote a book on parenting. Ryan Holiday interviewed her for his Stoic podcast. And I caught just a glimpse of it, but she had written about this idea of, like, as a parent, letting go of this idea that you're going to be perfect, that you're never going to mess up. Like, just surrender that you're a human being. And that, so instead of trying to be perfect and missing the mark, get really good at repair work. And I just loved that notion, get really good at repair work. I'm like, yeah, we're all going to mess up with our significant others or with our kids or with employees. And so just start getting comfortable admitting that we were wrong, which I think is highly unusual. But when we do it, employees go nuts. They're like, oh my God, nobody's ever said that to me. And thank you for acknowledging. And it goes a long way. So
100%. Even as a parent, we don't necessarily say it. I'm going to go find the book, and 2, I wish I had found it 20 years ago. That would have been great.
Right? Yeah, I know. I could have used that whole idea a long time ago. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not even a parent, and that's the funny thing. I don't have kids, but I just loved that notion. I thought it was it's applicable everywhere. Anyway, I loved that. I will also just add, I also do gratitude in mine. I do 3 things I'm grateful for. I also try to list fears. So fears or concerns. I do that daily. Like, what's on my mind that I'm, like, a little nervous about, like, I got to go to the dentist, or I'm not going to make enough money, or we didn't do enough sales this quarter, whatever these things. It's really good for me to get those out on paper, so they're not just swirling around by themselves in my mind, like, building up momentum. And then the last thing I write is kind of plans or intentions for the day.
Nice.
And so, I usually just try to have, I've got a client, he started doing this recently. He said, I'm going to do 3 hard things a week. That's it. And he's the CEO of an organization. And I thought, man, that's so much better than these, like, absurd to-do lists that most of us build that are
100%.
Like, all right, I have 47 things I'm going to accomplish this week and, take care of life at the same time. So
exactly. Yes, exactly. Especially when we're chunking it down again to the third, right? A third of it we actually have to quote unquote live, do what the free will, exercise our free will in a third of our lives.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So journaling is one piece.
Journaling's one.
Meditation. Talk to us about meditation, because I get a lot of pushback from some of my clients that do not meditate, and it's hard, it's challenging, they can't quiet their brain. Talk to us about your recommendation of how you guide your clients through meditation.
I also get those clients. I have those same clients. So again, I was introduced to meditation through the recovery world. And so in the world of the 12 steps, the 11th step is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with a higher power. And so that's how that got started. And similarly, I also struggled with it for several years. I had a really hard time with it, primarily because I had so many old stories and ideas about what I thought meditation was supposed to look like. And so I thought like I needed to be wearing saffron robes and have incense burning and candles everywhere, and like being like a hut made out of bamboo and rice paper. Like, I don't know where I got
the production.
these.
Yes.
It would have been a lot to, right? And so if it's just me sitting in the corner of my house on a Tuesday, it doesn't feel quite as like, interesting looking or exotic. And so that was the first piece. The second piece was like letting go of the idea. For some reason, I had this notion that most people have about meditation, which is that I'm supposed to be free of all thoughts, which is, absurd. And so I have learned now, having worked with many meditation teachers over the last 20 years, I have learned that that's absurd. The mind is a thinking machine. It's supposed to think. And to think that we're going to like get it to quit doing its job after, I'm 52. So, to get it to like just stop operating all of a sudden is maybe not the right mark. The idea is that we learn how to work with those thoughts. And that's a very different thing. So once I understood what meditation was really supposed to do, it became much easier to practice because I didn't feel like I was failing all the time. Right. So, the way that I started meditating way more regularly, and this is not meant to be sad, but 15 years ago this month, my best friend passed away from cancer. And when he was kind of like towards the end of it, he was dying, and we knew that it was not going well, and none of the treatments were working. And he and I had been best friends and roommates for most of our lives. And so I was having a really hard time like thinking about like, what does the world look like without Kevin in it? Like, I just could not imagine the void that was going to create, and like how I was just going to like have a Saturday without talking to Kevin, or how I was going to go to the movies, or how do I go skating without Kevin? Like, it just didn't make sense. Right. And so it was very stressful and to say the least. And so I had this moment one day, it was getting towards the end, and I felt like this extreme tension and pressure in my body. And I literally just sat down. The dog bed was in our bedroom right at the foot of our bed. And I literally sat down on a dog bed and I just started breathing. And that was my very first, probably and most sincere attempt at meditation, where I just sat down and I was just trying to breathe and like be with what was versus try to like bypass something. So since then I have, studied meditation for a long time. I've had several teachers. I go so far as to sit like these multi-day silent retreats now, and I've been doing that for several years. And so I've had a lot of time sitting on the cushion in meditation, and I've had some wonderful teachers, and coming from lots of different backgrounds. And so the thing that I kind of recommend for people to get started, my clients included, is to start with something very, very short, 5 or 10 minutes a day. Just have a seat, and if you can, focus on your breath. That's it. There are several objects of where we can place our attention, whether it be felt sense of the body or sound or breath or whatever. And so the breath is probably one of the easiest ones. To sit down, have a seat, close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, and just start paying attention to your breath. You can kind of note it too, like I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out and I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. And then 100%, I am sure this is going to happen next. You're going to start thinking about something else. You're going to start thinking about what you got to do today.
Yes.
To-do list. Absolutely. The task list comes up. What am I going to eat for lunch? Oh, we got some good stuff in the fridge. I can't wait to make that chicken salad. You're going to start thinking, I want to get rich one day. What am I going to buy? I'm going to get a speedboat. Like your mind just off and running. And that is so normal and so acceptable. And so here's the meditation piece. When we notice that we have started thinking, we're like, oh, I started thinking. Come back to the breath. And that's it. And you're going to do that over and over in a 5-minute period. My hunch is that you will probably space out and start thinking about something else at least 10 times, if not more. And so, and to like normalize that. And then over time, that 5 minutes can grow to 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever you want, to where you have a decent little sit in the morning and your mind can get really settled and you can watch thoughts come in. And the level of awareness is what we're really, I think, trying to get to. Continuity of awareness is what one of my teachers calls it. And so that there's more awareness built in through the day. And then even better is that when we're off the cushion or we're out of the chair or wherever, we just become more aware. I'm sitting in this chair right now and I'm thinking about like what my body feels like touching the chair, right?
Yes.
I can feel the wind on me, like from my fan. And so I try to maintain that level of awareness of consciousness. And that allows me to be really clear when like an errant emotion shows up before I act on it. I can like be like, oh, wow, my throat just got really tight. My chest is a little tight. Like I'm feeling defensive about something, or I'm feeling angry or resentful. It's a good time to just not say anything. Now's just a good time to keep quiet. Maybe we'll revisit this conversation later. So so that's a long explanation of like how I got there, the way that I practice and teach my practice, and then like the results that it gets most people.
I think that's huge, Parker. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think those are the specifics that we definitely want to share with the listeners. And like you said, you have the clients that also say that it's a little bit challenging when we talk about meditation.
That's right.
Meditation. And so like you said, start 3, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Don't start with the multi-day silent retreats that you mentioned that you're doing now. That is not a great starting point. And it goes back to what you mentioned earlier as you were starting to explain this, like giving yourself the grace. Like if you do it for 3 days consecutively and you, the continuity of awareness, that is huge, by the way.
Right.
But if you do 3 to 5 days and then you fall off and you forget to do it a day, or you don't find those moments to actually just pause and breathe, it's okay. Give yourself the grace to pick back up on the following day or when you remember,
totally.
Without feeling like you have to beat yourself up.
Yeah. That's a really great add-on. That's a really wonderful point. Yeah. It does not constitute a failure if you miss, the next day. It's totally okay. One of my favorite kind of little truisms that I've ever heard, and this kind of can be about any habit that you're hoping to build, and whether that's going to the gym or meditation or eating healthy or whatever it is like never skip day 2. You can skip one day. One day is fine. But as soon as you skip day 2, you're now building a new habit.
Yes.
And the new habit is not doing it.
Exactly.
So maybe that's a James Clear thing. I can't remember where that came from, but
it sounds like it. It would have come from the Atomic Habits book. Yeah, exactly.
Totally, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Never skip day 2.
And it's true because you are starting a new habit, regardless of if it's intentional or you are aware of it or not. Whatever your action is supporting is the habit that you're creating.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly right. And meditation is one of those things, like I think it does bring some relief in the moment. It did for me, especially like that first time that I was talking about. It can bring some relief to just sit down and rest and just focus on like one thing and not let your mind just run like crazy. But the real benefit is what happens in aggregate over the long haul. I think that something really special happens. We become more aware. We're just more thoughtful. We sit down to eat a thing of food and we're like, wow, look at all this amazing food. I can't believe where all this came from. Or, before we just mindlessly turn on the TV, which I am very guilty of. I have a moment where I'm like, do I want to watch TV, or maybe do I want to read, or do I want to go for a walk, or, so it just creates a little more, between kind of impulse and action, there's that little buffer right in the middle. That's the Viktor Frankl thing. But right in between those two things, I have a split second to make a real decision with intention.
What do you do in that moment? That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say unfortunately, it's just how I thrive. I am that person that has the to-do list of 40 two items
Same.
that carries over from week to week. And as we talk about like those moments, it's interesting because I had a pretty hefty to-do list for this upcoming week. And just this weekend on Sunday, in my morning routine time and just taking some time to quiet my mind, I took a greater amount of time than I typically would. And I actually took a 4-hour chunk of my day on Sunday, even though I had a very healthy to-do list in front of me, to truly meditate and journal. And at the end of it, realizing, okay, I just spent 4 hours of time with myself, just being present with myself. But it does create that space where I can show up as a better version of me for the rest of the week. And it goes back to that, was it Gandhi who is it that said, like, if you're busy, then you need to meditate more, right? Like the person that's busy is the person that needs to add more meditation to their schedule.
Yeah, that's the old Zen proverb.
Yes, I was living that in that moment. I was like, I'm so busy right now, but what I really need is to take extra time for myself, just to take those moments.
I love the old, and for the less Eastern people listening to the podcast, the old Abe Lincoln quote of like, if you give me 3 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend 2 hours sharpening my axe.
100%.
Right? It's like same thing. That's exactly what I think. What that is. 4 hours was sharpening your axe for the week.
Yes,
right.
That's exactly right. I love it. it. Okay, so the last piece, Parker, is the movement. We'll dive into that. You said it doesn't have to be like high intensity workout. We're not talking HIIT or just moving our bodies.
Yeah, I'm such a, I mean, the science is really clear on this, right? Like the science is undefeated on moving our bodies. It's the number one treatment for depression. It's the number one treatment for anxiety. It's the number one treatment for like busyness feeling. Yes. I also like, and I'm a very active person. I like rock climbing and I ride the bike a lot and I spend a lot of time in the mountains as much time as I can be in the mountains. And so I love kind of intense activity, and few things are better for my business, my leadership capacity, my collaborative capacity, my creative capacity than walking. Getting out and walking. I've gotten where I like watch my steps. It's so stupid, but it's like, man, 10,000 steps is like I've generated more ideas and solved more problems during the 10,000 steps than I do if I'm sitting in front of this laptop all day long or on my phone all day long. Those are just not generative spaces for me. Moving the body allows me to process stuff. I get new ideas. Sometimes I listen to podcasts, sometimes, audiobooks, whatever. Sometimes I take calls. My clients often say like, man, this is one of our best calls we've ever had. So,
and you're in the midst of a walk as you're on the call.
I'm down the Greenway. I'm 3 miles from the house. And so, I'm just a big advocate. I also think that it allows us to sleep better at night. Obviously, again, science is really clear. The better we sleep, the better we're going to feel the next day, the more clarity we have. It is undefeated as the one thing that we can do that will improve so many other areas of our lives. It is the meta skill, I think, is taking as good a care as we possibly can of this, vehicle. And so, if you're limited in your ability to move, like thinking about other ways where, we can get the blood pumping and, moving, I think is, doing anything we can to get some of that movement into our bodies.
Right. Absolutely. Fabulous. I love that. Those are, I think, 3 key pieces that we should all strive to incorporate in our lives, if not daily. If you're not at that space where it's daily, and again, it's a judgment-free zone, start where you are.
For sure.
Starting to have, take the steps to make them a habit where you are incorporating it into your regular lifestyle. And it becomes part of your lifestyle. It's not a to-do list item. It's just part of how you show up every day for yourself. And like we started out with this episode talking about how then we're able to show up for the other people that we're leading and working alongside.
Yeah. This is one of those tricky things that especially, the busy clients, the CEOs that are like, man, I don't have time to do anything. Like I'm just slammed all the time. And I'm like, it's very counterintuitive for them to think if I stop and I take a 10-minute walk around the block, just leave the building, circle the block and come back. It's counterintuitive to think that will actually create more space in their thinking and their actions and their abilities. And so they just stay in their office all day long.
They do.
And it's not super healthy. I don't think that we have fully like adapted as a species to being indoors, artificial light, standing, in front of a digital display all day, every day. I think that there's still a part of us that really needs to be outside more, get some vitamin D, and then just move the body.
Agreed.
In whatever
just
way you
craving
can.
that. I think that many of us are craving that, and we don't realize that is the solution for the gap or the block that we're experiencing.
That's right. Yeah. And so it leads to a lot of like finding other ways to relax or, decompress. I hear that word a lot, so a lot of people go home and they have a couple of drinks, or they're like, I just need to sit on the couch and watch TV, or, and again, science is really clear. Like none of those things actually help us decompress. Looking at your phone feels good in the moment, right? But it doesn't actually allow us to process the day in the way that we need to process it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So powerful, Parker. Thank you. I love it.
For sure.
I would love for you to share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you. And I guess ideally talk to us about your ideal client. Like, who are you working with now? Who would you like to work with in the future? And how can they get a hold of you if these are the individuals that say, yes, I'm raising my hand?
Yeah, for sure. So these days I primarily work with senior leaders only. So mostly C-suite folks, but C-suite teams. And so senior leadership teams, I've really become more and more interested over the past couple of years about how teams work together.
Yes.
There's this interesting theme. You've probably seen this. My last company was a company called Stoked, and I was there for about 10 years, and we taught design thinking, and we did innovation work with companies all over the world for a number of years. Stoked is still in operation. I'm just not there anymore. But one of the things I would notice about teams, senior leadership teams especially, is that there's not a lot of emphasis or intention put into being on a team. There's a weird assumption that comes with like, oh, if you have the experience to have gotten to senior leadership, you're just naturally going to be good on a team. So if we put a bunch of smart people in a room, they're just going to be good at being on a team. Right? And that is just not the case. So there's
not necessarily true. Correct.
Almost never true. And they're always a little confused because they're all standing around going like, man, we're all smart people. And we have, advanced experience and advanced degrees. And we've done this for a long time. And I'm really good in my specific domain. Like I'm a really good operator. I'm a really good finance person or whatever. Why does it suck so bad being in this team and being in this team meeting? It's like, it's awful. And there's these great stories about U.S. Olympic teams, where we put the best basketball players, in the U.S. on a team and then send them to the Olympics and they fail miserably, or the best hockey players and they go and then they're terrible, because they haven't been on a team before together.
Right.
They're the best in the world at what they do, yet you put them on a team together and there's no sense of team, there's no sense of coaching, there's no sense of leadership. They don't perform well. And so that's why I've become specifically interested in working with leadership teams. And so that's primarily what I do. And then I also coach one-on-one most of the individuals on that team. So it's a little bit of like one-on-one and teams. I work with a broad range of, in a broad range of like domains, I would say these days. And so I work with people in healthcare and I work with people in advertising and marketing in the creative space. It's kind of all across the board. And so, some folks in tech and, a lot of folks in tech, actually, folks in retail sales. So it's, I don't know that I'm super picky about, the industry that you're in. I am super picky on working with like great people, like nice people.
Yes.
And I have a great mentor, a guy who's been he taught at Stanford for a very long time. And he's like, who do you not want to work with? This is a great story. And I said, well, I don't want to work with assholes. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah. And he's like, man, I love working with them. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, dude, you can have no greater impact on an organization than working with the guy that's the biggest jerk. all the people that are downstream from him, if you help him show up better and behave better, there are more people that are going to be grateful for your work than you can possibly imagine. So I've taken that on as a challenge. And so, right.
You know, good on you, because I thought, fair enough. You
Yeah.
work with them when they're being jerks, and I am happy to continue the work with them after.
Yeah, that's a really fair way to do it. They can't be obviously unkind. They can't be unkind to me. And if I ever
absolutely.
witnessed them being unkind, I would certainly be like, "Hey, we're gonna talk about what you just did right there."
Yes.
Anybody
Well,
that's
and
mean to a
kindness is at the
server,
center of what you have
100%.
truly built, right? In terms of the work
Yes.
that you do. Yes.
It is the number one behavior on the list of 12 behaviors that are
Yes.
currently in the book. And so, yeah, kindness is really, really important. You have to be cool to servers at restaurants. Like that's my bar.
Yes.
But I like working with creative people. I like working with people that are like legit interested in like, how do we get better? Like we want to get better. How do we do it?
Yes.
So those are always the fun ones. I think the people that are honest about kind of how they show up, they can take a good look at themselves, have a little bit of self-awareness. That goes a long way, but we can get there if you don't have much of it yet. And then, but are also, I think humor is really important. I think humor can be like a really great way to do deep, like psychological and spiritual work, is like if we have a little humor on the front end. And so I think having a sense of humor, like, they have to, if they're like serious all the time, then that's not very interesting for me. So,
right.
so those would be the things that I look for. The easiest way to find me, parkergates.com. You can go there and it has all the contact info and you can sign up for stuff. But if you want that 3 practices video that you can kind of like, we'll walk you through, journaling and meditation and movement practices. It's parkergates.com/watch. That's it. Like WATCH.
Perfect.
Sign up and you'll get the newsletter if you sign up for that. And if you don't want the newsletter, you can automatically unsubscribe. But I've been publishing a newsletter for the last, 2.5 years, I guess. And we talk about leadership and culture and personal leadership as well as leadership of others. We talk about design. We talk about a lot of fun stuff. It's really short. It gets a lot of good reviews. So, think about it.
That's awesome. Parker, that is amazing. And thank you for extending the offer and the invitation to our listeners to take advantage of that. So parkergates.com/watch, WATCH. We will make sure that we drop that in the show notes. And I want to make sure that I take a moment because I keep thinking it and I forget to say it to you. Congratulations on 24 years of sobriety as well.
Thanks.
That's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's actually, it's a really good life these days. So, it's a really good life. I'm happy to be here. And I'm really like, it's kind of become part of, is the work that we do, right? Is like kind of like these helping traditions or these helping roles. That's being in recovery taught me how to help other people be in recovery. And it's a big part of my life. And so also, if any of your listeners are struggling with drinking or drugs, they can reach out to me there too. I'm happy to point them in the right direction.
Thank you for that. That's huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if you have questions for our listeners, I'd like to put that out there. We're all in different spaces. I love that.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So Parker, every guest is posed with the same question as we wrap up each episode, and I am not going to let you off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
So I am curious to know, for you, as a leader, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years from now, Parker, how do you want to be remembered as a leader?
That's such a wonderful question. And also like what a wonderful way to set an intention for who you want to be, So I think that I want to be remembered as somebody who really helped others become the best version of themselves. I've had so many people in my life that were just wonderful bosses, wonderful leaders. And I think about them fondly and often. And I hope that I get to be that person for others in the way that these people were for me. So that's my goal. That's what I'm shooting for.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Parker. And also thank you for pointing out the fact that it truly does become an intention as
For
you all
sure.
share it. I didn't
Yeah.
think about it that way, but I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This has been amazing. I'm not surprised. I didn't have expectations for the show because that's not how we operate here. But I am so filled with gratitude with all of the knowledge and skills that you've shared with myself and the listeners today. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for sharing your tools with us. And more importantly, thank you for making yourself available to the listeners that feel drawn and connected to connect with you and work with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Natalie, thank you so much. This has been a blast. You're a wonderful host.
Thank you. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, you're really good at it. You're really, really good at it. I've been on some podcasts that not so much.
Different.
So anyway,
it's different. I'm creating a different space here.
You're doing a really wonderful job with it. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Parker. Yeah. For our listeners, we will make sure that we put Parker's information in the show notes for you. And if you are not subscribed on your favorite streaming platform for this show, please do so. Like, what are you waiting for? Yeah. And the other piece is make sure that you check out the Flamingo Files newsletter on LinkedIn. That newsletter drops every Monday where I go a little bit deeper into our discussion, some of my takeaways, and we chunk down those nuggets that we have in these episodes, those things that you can apply to your life, the things that your team will start to see within you if you don't address them. I bring those to your attention in those weekly newsletter episodes. So check that out, the Flamingo Files on LinkedIn. Until next time, I will see you all soon. Thank you for spending time growing with me on the Leadership That Shines podcast. Every episode is built around the values of impact, influence, and growth. And I want all three of those to show up in how you lead starting this week. If this episode added value to your week, share it with a leader in your world who is ready to grow. Subscribe and follow so that you never miss a week. And I'll see you in the next episode.